Hey guys, welcome back to She Speaks Blog. I am your host, Kirsten Thompson from SweetTeaLLC.co, and this is the one about the elements of a blog post. So there's all different things that you need to make sure that you include in a blog post, and that can sometimes get really overwhelming. So we're going to break it down in today's episode. Let's get going.
She Speaks Blog is an unfiltered and unpredictable podcast and video show that gives you blog tips and strategies so you can be more epic. So grab your beverage of choice, crank up your earbuds, and listen in as She Speaks Blog.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm excited to talk about this today because I get a lot of questions from readers and people in my blog community who always wonder, am I formatting my post properly? I feel like I might be leaving something out. I'm just not really sure how to boost my SEO or, what I should exactly include in my blog post. So I wanted to do an episode about the different elements that we should be including in every blog post. And I'm going to talk about those. And I know that it's really overwhelming to think about all the different pieces of a post. So I've got something special for you guys today. If you go to sweetteallc.co/blog post, all squished together, you will get a checklist that includes everything I'm going to talk about today. And so you can just print that out or you can use it digitally and just kind of use that as a guide every time you format your blog post to make sure that you've checked all the boxes and you've got all these pieces in your blog post, because it is very easy for us to forget some of these things. And if you listened to the one about simplifying your blogging processes, I talked a lot in there about the importance of having a checklist for things that are recurring tasks for you, because our brains can only hold so much information. So if you use this as kind of a guide, you won't have to think anymore about all the pieces that go into your blog post. You can just write your blog post and then you go back with this checklist later and go, okay, I've checked all the boxes, we're good to go. So that's my goal for this episode, is so that you can check all those boxes, okay? And as I go through these, you might want to think too about some of the content that you already have on your website. Maybe it's a really popular blog post, or maybe it's a post that you're really proud of and you want it to be more popular. You might want to go in and just make sure that all of these pieces are in those posts so that you can fully optimize that and get as much traffic from those as you can. So let's talk about all the pieces. There's pieces, there's elements that you need to include in your blog post because maybe they're pretty or they help your post look prettier and more engaging. And then there's elements of a blog post that help boost your SEO, and they're both important. So from a reader perspective, you want your posts to be engaging, you want them to be eye-catching. And those are the pretty elements of your blog post. But from a Google search perspective, you want them to be optimized for SEO, right? You want to be found in search. So we're going to talk about both of those elements today. So let's start with the pretty stuff first. The very first thing, and we're going to start at the top, the very first thing that you need to make sure that every blog post has is a good headline. A lot of bloggers make the mistake of trying to be cutesy and funny and whatever. And that's all fine and good, maybe for your intro paragraph, which is called your hook. But for your headline, you want it to be very straightforward and catchy, but you want it to be optimized for SEO. And there's a really great tool called the Headline Analyzer from CoSchedule. It's completely free. And it helps you write better headlines. And I use this tool for my email subject lines sometimes too. You don't have to just use it for a blog post. So basically you go in and type in your headline and it gives you a score. And your goal with this headline analyzer is to get a green score, to get anything in the green. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about here. So for the sake of this episode, I went into CoSchedule's Headline Analyzer and I typed in the elements of a blog post, and we're going to click Analyze Now. And this is probably going to get a really low score because it's very bland. So when it analyzes that title, it gives me a score of 60, which is a yellow. And then it breaks down and shows me exactly why they gave me that score. So it says that 51% of the words are common, a, of, and the. There are no uncommon words. There's no emotional words. There's no power words. It's very generic. So this is a great way for you to get yourself in the habit of writing better blog post titles, because your title, just like an email subject line, is what is going to draw people in when they see it listed in Google search. Okay. It's not just for SEO. You want to catch people's attention and tell them immediately what this blog post is about. So, we can play around with the different words and we can change things up. But as you change it, you're going to be able to see a running list of the post titles that you've put into this headline analyzer in this one session. It doesn't save it if you leave the page and come back. So if you stay on this page, you can try different combinations of words. You can add different adjectives and things like that, like the ultimate guide to formatting your blog post or something like that. And it'll tell you specifically what the scores are for each of those headlines, and you can decide which one is best for you. It analyzes the length of your blog post title, so it'll tell you if it's too short or if it's too long. It says your headline is the right length. 6 words is a good word count for your title. But the character length is a bit short. So it looks at the character count and the word count. And then it shows you what your blog post is going to look like, your post title would look like in a Google search and in an email subject line. So this is a really, really handy tool, and I will link to this in the show notes. Like I said, it's completely free, but it helps you write really great headlines for your blog posts. And your headline is the first place to start when you are making sure that you have all the right elements of a blog post that people actually want to read. So the next thing is the hook, and I talked about this a minute ago. So if you're reading a book, and I heard a funny story not too long ago. So there's apparently this thing going around on social media where people are taking really popular literature and they're reading the first sentence and then changing the second line to say, and then the murders began. And it's really funny. I mean, people have done it with like Winnie the Pooh stories where they're like, Winnie the Pooh and Piglet were the best of friends, and then the murders began. And it was this really funny thing. And they've done it with like Charles Dickens and all this stuff. That's called the hook, though. So if you're not going to write a blog post and say, I made this amazing piece of furniture and then the murders began. But you want something in there that's going to hook people right from the beginning. It's going to catch their attention. So that introductory paragraph is very, very important. And there's things in that paragraph that you need to make sure that you have. So you want it to be eye-catching. You want it to be attention-grabbing. So you want it to hook your readers. But you also want to make sure that includes the main overall keyword phrase for your entire blog post. Okay, that needs to be right there at the very top of your blog post, and that's really good for SEO. So make sure that you take the time and you don't just write, hey, I found this piece of furniture on the side of the road and I turned it into this really pretty thing. Come watch what I did. Like, don't make it boring. You want the very first paragraph that people read to be attention grabbing. You want them to want to keep reading more, okay? The next thing that you're going to have, at least somewhere in that post, I like to put mine towards the top right after the introductory paragraph, is a vertical image for Pinterest. Now, Pinterest recommends that you use images that are 735 pixels wide and then whatever height you want it to be. Anything 1100 pixels and above is really good. So you want it to be longer than it is wide. If you spent even 20 seconds on Pinterest, you know that vertical images perform better than horizontal images on Pinterest. So within your blog post, you want to make sure that you have at least one pinnable image that's vertical. I recommend putting more than one in there, but the main one that I put towards the top of my blog posts is the main vertical image, and it's got the title of my post on it and it's got the watermark on it. And that's really the one that I want people pinning. And there's actually a plugin, and I'll have to look it up later. I think it's called Simply Pinterest. I'll have to check, but there's a plugin that I use on both of my websites that allows me to check a box when I add an image that says I don't want people to pin this, and I do that for all of my horizontal images. I have quite a few old blog posts from, back in the day where people have pinned the horizontal image, and I hate that. So I use this plugin, and like I said, I'll have to look it up and I'll link to it in the show notes and let you know what it is, but it makes it really easy to set which specific images in my post I really want people pinning and which ones I don't. So I have a little bit more control over that. In addition to your vertical image that has your post title on it, you want to make sure that you have at least 3 to 5 other really high quality images or graphics. So in the case of Sweet Tea LLC, my blog posts are not like recipes or furniture remodels or anything like that. So it's really difficult for me to have images, and that's where stock photos come in. So I do try, if I am teaching how to do something, I'll include screenshots as my images, and that's perfectly fine. If there are no screenshots for me to share, I try to make graphics, at least 2 or 3 graphics with maybe some words on it or whatever that I can put in the post just to break up the text. So you want to make sure that when you're scrolling through your blog post that you don't ever have these just huge chunks of text, because people are not going to read all of that. If you break them up into smaller, shorter paragraphs and you break them up with bullets or lists or H tags, which we'll talk about in a few minutes when we get to SEO, or you put images in there or calls to action in there, anything you can do to break up those blocks of text is going to be a lot better for readability, and it's going to keep people scrolling through your blog post to read more. So that's where images come in. So if you have done, a room remodel, or if you've done a recipe or what have you, it might seem a little silly when you go to a food blogger's post and you see that there's like 5 pictures of the same recipe, but they're just staged all a little bit differently. But that's for a reason. It's for readability. You don't want just one picture and then this huge chunk of text that says, here's how you make it, and then you're done. It breaks up that text and it makes it more readable, which keeps people sticking around a little bit longer. So I mentioned a second ago, calls to action. That's another thing that you want to put in your blog post. A call to action could be something like a click to tweet. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll show you exactly what that looks like. I use this quite a bit on Sweet Tea LLC. So if you're scrolling through a blog post, there's this click to tweet box here, and you can literally click on that and it writes the tweet. It includes a link to my original blog post, and it has my Twitter handle in it. So that not only breaks up the text, as you can see if you're watching this on YouTube, that not only breaks up the text of my blog post, but it also gives people a really quick and easy way to share my content, which we want, right? We want people sharing our content. So some other calls to action that you can include, you could have a graphics box in there that says, hey, I've got this free thing, and you have people click on it to get a content upgrade. Or you could ask questions. You could tell them to pin something. So there's all kinds of things that you can include that are calls to action, and they're really great to have in your blog post. So if you're accustomed to writing really long content, really long pieces of content like I was doing before I started doing more video, break up that text as much as you can and include at least 2 calls to action if it's a really long blog post. So just a quick note about blog post length. For the sake of SEO, your post needs to be a minimum of 300 words. So even for things like my show notes for this podcast, I make sure that I have at least 300 words in the show notes because I put this on my blog. So Google tells us to have at least 300 words in a blog post to be found on Google search. So now we're moving down the blog post, right? We've got a really great headline, and we've used CoSchedule's headline analyzer to make sure it's good. We've got a killer hook right there at the top of our page with our intro paragraph, and it's got our keyword in it. We've got at least 1 vertical image with the title. We've got several more images that really make the post pop. We've got calls to action in there. We've got at least 300 words of content. So now as we move down, the next thing that we want to make sure that we have is a comment box. We want people to be able to talk to us, right? So there's actually a plugin that you can use on WordPress called Comment Love, which is really nice because if a blogger comments on your blog post, Comment Love allows them to enter the URL of their blog post, and it pulls up their feed, and they can check a box and say, I want it to promote this post. So basically it'll have their comment, and then it'll say most recent post or something like that, and it'll have a link to it. So other people commenting can go to their blog post and read it if they think it's relevant to them. So it's just a nice way to kind of pay it forward if you have other bloggers commenting on your stuff. But you definitely want to make sure that you give people an opportunity to leave comments, and you want to try to go and reply to those comments when you can. If you are just inundated with tons of comments, it is hard to get back to every single person, but try to at least go in and make comments or reply to comments on a few of them so that people can see that you are active in the comment thread. And they're more inclined to comment if they see you talking back to them. So the final thing for this particular category of elements of a blog post, before we get into SEO, I want to make sure that you have an email sign-up box. So this is something that I have in the post footer of every single one of my blog posts. And sometimes it changes depending on if I have a content upgrade or not. So I make sure that every single blog post has a sign up form in it. I want people to get on my email list. And this is something that you don't have to wait until the post footer to put on there. You can embed this somewhere in the middle of your post, and then again at the end. You can have text links that link to a landing page, all different kinds of things. But I want people on my email list, so I want to make sure that I give them an opportunity to get on my email list, okay? So those are kind of the basic elements of your blog post without talking about SEO. So SEO is how you get found in search, and that's how you grow, right? So the first set of elements that we talked about were more for engagement. We want people to engage with our content, and they do that by seeing the catchy headline and reading an awesome hook and looking at the beautiful photos and having something to pin and having a click to tweet and all those sorts of things. Those are engagement elements. The next set of elements are SEO elements, and this is for growth. So there are things that you need to include in every blog post to make sure that your post gets found on search. And I am going to do some future episodes that are more in-depth about SEO, but for now, this is a really great place to start. So let's start by talking about keywords. Keywords are those words or phrases that your average reader is going to be searching for on Google, and you want them to find you. You want them to find your blog post about this particular keyword. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're looking at a post that I wrote on Sweet Tea LLC called How to Set Up a Welcome Series for Email Subscribers. Okay, I did some keyword research before I wrote this post and before I titled it, and I see people looking for welcome series, how to set up a welcome series, those sorts of things. So that is my ultimate keyword phrase. So the title of this post is How to Set Up a Welcome Series for Email Subscribers. And throughout the post, I repeat welcome series, how to set up a welcome series, things like that. And I use these in all different places. So once you figure out what your actual keywords are going to be, I highly recommend that you have your main overall keyword, and then you have what are called secondary and tertiary keyword phrases. So your secondary and tertiary keyword phrases, those are still keyword phrases that people will be searching for, that they might find you, but they're less common. So for example, one of mine for this particular post was why create a welcome series. Another one is how to create a welcome series. So these are different phrases that people are going to be using to find things, and I want them to come across my blog post. So once you have all of your keywords written out, you want to make sure that you use them in all the right places. So obviously the title of your post is the very first place that you're going to make sure that you use your ultimate keyword phrase. Okay. Going down from there, you want to make sure it's in the first main section, the intro, the hook of your blog post. And I like to put mine in bold because when Google search bots are crawling my blog post and they see something in bold, it's going to tell them that that particular word or phrase is more important than the other words around it. So they're going to look at it a little bit more. So I always like to bold my main keyword phrase, and it's usually the title of my post used organically in a paragraph. And then you want to use what are called H tags. So first of all, your blog post title in most themes is going to be what's called an H1. Now, when you are, and this is getting a little in depth, but bear with me, and I'll do it, like I said, I'll do another episode that's more deep dive into SEO. And I actually have a free course on my website called SEOMG if you want to really deep dive into SEO. And I talk a lot about all of this stuff, but for the sake of this episode, I'll break it down like this. Your H1 tag should only be used once, and that's your title. So you don't need to ever put an H1 tag in your blog post. It's done for you when you publish your post. Your H2 tag should be used a couple of times, 2 or 3, and then H3 tags. So the lower ranked your H tags are, the more frequently you can use them in a post. Because when Google search bots or any search bot crawls your post, they're going to look first at your H1 tag, and they know that that is the most important word or phrase in your blog post. They're going to look at your H2 tags and see that those are the second most important phrases, and so on and so forth. So when you are writing your post, try really hard not to make something an H tag if it's really not relevant to the post. If it's just because you're excited about this thing and you're trying to make it stand out, make it bold, but don't use an H tag. You only want to use H tags on things that are actual keywords or like section headings, things like that. So be very careful with how you use your H tags, because you don't want to confuse search bots and have them thinking that you have these completely irrelevant keywords in your post, because that's what you'll end up ranking for instead of ranking for what you really want to be ranked for, which is whatever the title of your post is. So keep that in mind when you're formatting your blog post. You also want to make sure that you use your keywords in your image names and your alt text. So what I mean by that is when you create images, whether it's saving them after you've edited them in PicMonkey, or you've created a graphic in Canva or anything like that, you want to name your image something that has your keywords in it. You don't want to just have it say img0001.jpg, because Google search bots don't read like a regular person. They don't see an image. What they see is a big hot mess of HTML, and they have to figure out what this stuff means. So when you are looking at your HTML, you want to make sure that search bots know that there's an image there, and they want to know what that image is about. So this is really good to know for two reasons. If for some reason someone goes to your website and they can't load the images for whatever reason, they're having an issue with their computer or whatever, and the images just aren't loading, the name of your image and the alt text for your image is what's going to tell them what that image is supposed to be, instead of just having this weird blank little box. But it also tells search bots what that image is about. So you want to make sure that you name your image something that has your keyword in it. So if you're looking at this on YouTube, you'll see this big ugly mess of code for the same blog post I was talking about a minute ago. This is the HTML for how to set up a welcome series for email subscribers. So I actually have highlighted the image. So what you see in the blog post is this really pretty vertical image that's got the title of my blog post on it. Search bots can't see that. Remember that. What search bots see is the code, and in that code, they need to see that I have the name of my image instead of just IMG whatever JPEG. They see sweetteallc.co, and then it says content uploads, how to set up a welcome series for email subscribers. That is the name of my image, and each word is separated by a hyphen. That's really important. Google search bots cannot read images if you squish all the words together. You need to make sure every word is separated by a hyphen. Now, when you're using something like PicMonkey, you can name your image when you save it, and if you create spaces between each word, it will put hyphens in there for you. If you use Lightroom, it'll do the same thing. Whatever you're using to edit your images, you want to make sure that you name them before you upload them to your WordPress media library, okay? The second part of your image is the alt text. Now, when you add an image to your blog post, you're going to see a series of boxes in the right-hand side in your media library, and it's going to ask you for the title and the caption and alt text and description. So the alt text is what people can see if the images don't load, and it's also something else that Google search bots read. And in a lot of cases, it's the description. The alt text is what gets pulled into Pinterest as the pin description. So typically when I add images to my blog post, I write out the description, whatever I want it to say on Pinterest, and then I copy that and paste it into the alt text. I just have to write it one time, copy and paste it into the alt text of all of the images in my post, and I'm good to go. So the alt text for this particular image says, a welcome series is a great way to establish know, like, trust immediately with new subscribers. Introduce old blog content to new readers, and share all the goodness your business has to offer. Learn how to set up a welcome series in both MailChimp and ConvertKit, and get ideas for what to say in your emails. So if somebody sees this on Pinterest, they're going to see what my post is about. If a search bot comes here, they're going to read that and they're going to know what my post is about. And there's other, like I mentioned, tertiary keywords. There's other keywords in there like MailChimp and ConvertKit. So that's really important. if you are not utilizing image names and alt text, you are wasting Google juice in your blog post. So make sure that you are naming every image and you're giving every image alt text that is an actual sentence or two that describes your post. We mentioned this earlier, but you want to make sure also for SEO that your post has a minimum of 300 words. Google likes longer blog posts. So if you have a really short blurb of a post, you need to go in and beef it up a little bit and make sure that you've got more content in there. Your meta description is really important. So if you're on WordPress, if you're on self-hosted WordPress, you can install Yoast SEO. It's completely free. You can pay for the paid version if you want to, but you don't have to. But Yoast SEO is so helpful. Now, let me be very clear about this plugin. Yoast does not, quote unquote, do SEO for you. Yoast is simply a tool that helps you improve your SEO. It kind of guides you to make sure that you have keywords in all the right places. But just installing Yoast on your blog does not automatically boost your SEO. You have to use it just like any other tool. So basically at the bottom of your text editor in WordPress, you have this plugin and you tell it what your main focus keyword is. And then you create a meta description. I can't stress this enough. If you do not click the edit snippet box and change that verbiage, it will pull in the first little line or two of your blog post. And if you're writing a sponsored post and that's where you've put your disclosure, guess what your meta description is going to be? It's going to be your disclosure. That's not very helpful on Google. So if somebody sees that blog post and they see the title and they're like, oh, this looks interesting, but the meta description says, this post was sponsored by so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. All opinions are my own. They're going to be like, okay, I don't care. They may or may not click over. So you want to customize your meta description and you can use the snippet box in Yoast to do that. The meta description is what people see right under your blog post title in a search, okay? So that needs to include your keywords. Be very clear. Make sure you put your keywords in your meta description. Another element that really helps boost SEO, and especially this helps lower your bounce rate too, is by including anchor text with links to other content that you've created. Google likes to give their search bot something to do, right? So when you go to one blog post, they want to know what else can they read when they're finished with this. So you want to give them paths to follow. You want to give your readers paths to follow. You don't want them to just read a post and then leave, right? That's a bounce. If you go back and listen to the Google Analytics episode, you'll hear me talk more about bounce rate. So if somebody comes to your post and they read just the post and they leave, that's a bounce. They've had one page view. You want to give them every opportunity to keep clicking and reading more. So within the body of your content, you want to use anchor text and link to another piece of content on your site with a follow link. So the anchor text is really important. I see a lot of people go, click here to read blah, 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 and they only link the words click here. It serves the reader, but it doesn't give you any SEO goodness. So your anchor text needs to actually include keywords in it. So for example, the post that I'm looking at right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, is my kitchen reveal. And within the body of this particular post, I'm talking about my old American flag. You can see more of my Americana dining room in this post. I love that flag and I love blah, 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 blah. And I talk about that. So Americana dining room in this post, that's my anchor text. And I've linked that to the post about my dining room. So that is an internal link that I've used with anchor text. And I have a couple of those in here. I talk about, there's a picture of something I bought when I went to the silos in Waco, and I wrote a post about our trip to Waco. So there's anchor text in there that links to that post. And then at the bottom of my kitchen reveal, I have pictures and links to more content that's related to this kitchen reveal. So leading up to this huge kitchen reveal, I actually wrote 7 total blog posts for this kitchen, and there's 6 other related posts. So at the bottom of my kitchen reveal, I have images of all 6 other blog posts that link to those posts. So it gives my readers something more to read, but it also gives SearchBot something else to click through and follow. So you want to make sure that every single post should link to at least 1 or 2 other posts on your blog. If you don't have related content for that particular blog post, link to a category page, okay? You always want to give people and search bots something else to click through and follow, but make sure you're linking to your own content first. It's perfectly fine to link out to someone else's post, and that's good too, but you want to make sure that you're linking to your own content as well. And a bonus to this is if you embed a video in your post. Video actually gets really good SEO juice. So if you embed a video and you use all the same information that I gave you about alt text and things like that, it's going to help you improve your SEO too. So think about this. YouTube is the second largest search engine on the internet. Okay. Google's first, YouTube is second. People go to YouTube and type in, how do I blah, 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 or how to whatever. So if you create a video for your post and you upload it to YouTube, you're going to get Google juice from that. But if you take that same video and you embed it in a blog post, it's going to really help your Google juice on your blog post too. So those are a lot of different things that you can do. I'm going to do a quick rundown of everything that we've talked about. These are the different elements. So we talked about elements to include in your post that are for engagement, right? You want your readers to engage. So you want to have a catchy headline, and I mentioned CoSchedule's headline analyzer for that. You want to have an attention-grabbing paragraph. That's your hook. You want to grab people's attention and get them to stick around and read the rest of the post. You need to have a pinnable vertical image that's 735 pixels wide by whatever the height. Make sure it's taller than it is wide. You want to have several other photographs in your post. Those are great for drawing attention, and they're great for breaking up the big blocks of text that you put in your post. You want to have calls to action. You can use click to tweet. You can use a pin it. You can use graphics that say click here to get this free thing, whatever. You want to ask questions. You want to make sure that you have a comment box, make it really easy for people to comment, and you want to talk to people in that comment section. And you want to have an email sign up form somewhere in your post, whether it's the footer or in the middle, wherever. You want to make sure people can sign up for your emails while they're there. So those are all the engagement elements of a blog post. And then when we get into SEO, this is for growth. So you want to make sure that you do some keyword research and you use those keywords in all the right places. So you're going to make sure you use keywords in your H tags, your title, your intro paragraph, all throughout the body of your post. You want to use it in your image names, in your alt text, in your meta description. So make sure you're including those keywords all over the place, okay? You want to make sure your post is a minimum of 300 words. You want to make sure that you create a custom meta description. You want to have control over what it looks like in search. So make sure you're using that meta description. And you want to include anchor text with keywords linking to other related content on your site or linking to a category page. And then as a bonus, you embed a video into your post. So all of those things combine and give you a really awesome piece of content that's shareable, it's engaging, and it'll help you grow because you're going to get found on Google search. So like I said, go to sweetteallc.co/blog post, all one word squished together. And I've got a free checklist for you to use so you can just make sure that you get all of these elements in your blog post. And I will see you next time. Bye.
Hang on, don't go. Be sure to subscribe to She Speaks blog so you never miss an episode. And if you're really cool, and I know you are, give this video a big thumbs up and leave a comment below. You can catch all episodes and show notes on sweetteallc.co. And while you're there, use the contact form to say hi or ask a question. Now go do more of what makes you awesome.